Hi there, and welcome to the Cotswold Explorer. I'm Robin Shuckburgh, and we're exploring the wonderful region of the Cotswolds in southwest England. We've decided to revisit the centre of the region and find some hidden gems, places that are not quite so famous, but still just as beautiful. Today you find Ross, Widget, Gizmo and me way up north in Gloucestershire in a little village called Mickleton. Well, it's not really a village anymore, it's more like a town, and it's busy and it's full of very jolly people. I'm going to show you around. Come with us. We've spent the last few weeks visiting the area around Chipping Norton on the Gloucestershire borders, where we saw with some trepidation the effect of a hugely thriving weekend property ownership and an influx of wealthy people from London and elsewhere. We weren't hugely enamoured by the way the Cotswold country was being manicured into an imitation of Weybridge. Today, we are in an entirely different kind of Cotswold. Right at the northern tip of Gloucestershire, close to the borders with Worcestershire and Warwickshire, is this wonderful village of Mickleton. Sitting in the shadow of the stunningly beautiful Meon Hill, a hill supposedly formed when the devil threw a huge clod of earth at Evesham Abbey and missed, and also the site of a dreadful murder we've already described when we visited the neighbouring village of Quinton. On arrival, this village is clearly and instantly recognisably a thriving and buzzing community. Even in 1905, when our muse and mentor Herbert Evans cycled through the town, it left a great impression on him. He wrote, amongst a lot else, "Mickleton deserves more than a passing notice. Even a glimpse from the distant railway of its spire rising out of a mass of clustering orchards, backed by the verdant slopes of the Cotswold, which hereabouts are cleft with deep and darkly wooded combes, must rouse both envy and curiosity. It is not a place where the squire and the parson seem to reign in solitary state. There are many other comfortable-looking houses beside the manor and the vicarage. There are village shops, a resident doctor, and the whole has all the air of a place where a man might possess his soul and body in peace." I have to say, exactly that feeling came over Ross and me when we pitched up in Mickleton. Ross had specifically asked that we go somewhere that would help us to get over our feelings of unease in the villages around Chippy, and here was the perfect antidote. The huge manor house has now been divided up into 4 separate houses, each with its own grand entrance. The high street is peppered with lovely and substantial Cotswold stone houses, and the 20th century has increased the population of the village to around 2,000 by building housing around the edges, but the end result is amazingly inviting. It may have had something to do with the smiling welcome we got from everyone we met. It might even have been because there were signs all over the village politely and helpfully pointing the way to the things to do and see. Whatever it was, we both felt practically at home here from the moment we arrived. There's a long-established family butcher, and a decent grocer's, several pubs, and a hotel called the Three Ways House, which is home to the Pudding Club, an eccentric dining club which celebrates the great English tradition of puddings and has been running extremely successfully every Friday since the 1980s. Certainly worth checking out. Just a mile or so outside the village towards the Cotswold Escarpment is the wonderful house of Kiftsgate Court, whose gardens are open to the public at various times and are utterly blissful to see. There used to be an avenue of elm trees all the way from the church to Kiftsgate House, but I'm afraid Dutch elm disease did for them in the 20th century. But don't be put off. Kiftsgate opens for weddings, and it's very hard to think of a more beautiful place to get wed. Check their website for opening times and details. Also not far from Mickleton was the railway tunnel, which caused the last battle on English soil between two private armies. Known as the Mickleton Tunnel Riot, this incident has been interpreted in a number of ways. A pitched battle between thousands of navvies and the forces of law, an example of organised labour striking over pay, a minor labour relations problem that spiralled out of control. I'm not sure we can ever be certain what actually happened in Mickleton in 1851. But what we can say is that today's Cotswolds line was built as part of the Oxford, Worcestershire and Wolverhampton Railway, and under the general direction of Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Certain parts of the line were subcontracted, and this is how the building of the Camden Tunnel came to be undertaken by one Mr. Marchant. Brunel was unhappy with progress on the tunnel and had stopped paying Marchant. The debt from Brunel had reached a staggering £34,000, and Marchant stopped paying his men and construction ground to a halt. The London Illustrated News then reported, "At the Worcester end of the tunnel, Mr. Cowdery, an agent for Petto and Betts, with 200 men from Evesham carrying pickaxes and shovels, met Marchant, who dared them to proceed on pain of being shot. He was carrying several pistols." Mr. Brunel, unable to persuade Marchant to move, told Petto and Betts' men to proceed and take the line. A rush was made, and several heads were broken, and 3 men had dislocated shoulders. One Marchant man who drew his pistols was set upon and his head nearly severed from his body. After the arrival of hundreds of police and other fighting men, Marchant decided discussion was the better part of valour, and called for arbitration. A sort of peace fell on Brunel's project, and eventually it was completed. Industrial relations, 19th century style. Returning to the more peaceful atmosphere of the Church of St. Lawrence, we found ourselves in a wonderfully roomy church, the clerestory, added in the 15th century, bathing the wide aisles with light. Like many of the churches in the area, it was originally 12th century and considerably enlarged in the 14th. The 2-staged tower carries a ribbed spire visible from the railway, as we've heard, and also from all other directions. The fine south porch was added in 1650 or thereabouts, and is of 2 stories, the top once used as a schoolroom. The reredos was created in 1882 by James Powell and Sons. The font is 17th century, and the pulpit is restored Jacobean. There are several monuments to local families and a selection of royal arms, but it is the windows that catch the eye. To the east and west of the aisles, the fine stone tracery of the windows, filled with stained glass from the middle of the 19th century, create a wonderful, almost cathedral-like atmosphere for the place. I like this church a lot. I hope you've enjoyed our little trip around Mickleton. It's been interesting, actually, because this is an example of an ancient Cotswold village that has been sort of swallowed by the 20th century. But everyone we've spoken to in this village has had a smile on their face, and it's made us feel good. It's lovely. It's a busy little place with some real treasures. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can find us in all the normal places. And visit our website, thecotswoldexplorer.co.uk, where you'll find everything we've done. And we will see you somewhere else in the Cotswolds in the very near future.